Hello, BookTube. I'm going to do the social media book tag. Um, it's been bouncing around a little bit lately and on BookTube, but seems to have been around for a while. Um, so here it is, social media book tag. Twitter, your favorite shortest book. And for me, it would any of these things could change on a dime or just with the weather. But what came to mind was this little thing. I love Planet of the Apes. This is Battle for the Planet of the Apes by David Gerald, based on a screenplay by John William Corrington and Joyce Hooper Corrington. Many of you have heard, this is an Avon Books. Let's see what the date is. So the date on this is 1973. Oh, it's dedicated to Harlan Ellison, who will appreciate the thought. I'm sure he did. Many of you will know David Gerald. He was a young writer back in the day who wrote The Trouble with Tribbles, a famous Star Trek episode. He also wrote a few other things here. The Galactic Whirlpool. He wrote The World of Star Trek. So in this one, The Battle for the Planet of the Apes, it was for the movie, so it's a movie novelization, obviously. Let me read you a little bit. Dawn of Hell. After the Great Destruction, when the nations of the earth had finally brought their civilizations to dust, there remained, unharmed, a group of apes and humans. This group, led from the ruins into the wilderness by the mighty ape Caesar, founded their own new world, the City of the Apes. Caesar saw this new world as an arboreal Eden, a place where apes ruled benevolently, where apes learned men's ways and bettered them, knew men's savageries and avoided them. But Caesar was wrong. What he couldn't see until too late was the future, the terrifying truth that awaited him in the rubble of the old city, the inevitable, the time when man would rise and fight again, and ape would slaughter ape. So, there you go. So that was Twitter, your favorite shortest book. Facebook, a book everyone pressured you into reading. This was actually an easy choice for me, and I have never finished them. I will. There's no reason not to. What I did read was wonderful. It's just the sheer size of the task. And this is Remembrance of Things Past. Marcel Proust. It's one work broken down. Swan's Way, Within a Budding Grove, Germonte's Way, Cities of the Plain, The Captive, The Sweet Cheek Gone, and The Past Recaptured. And there's other translations of this. This just happens to be the one I have. So I've never finished it. It would be a project. It would be a project well worth doing. It's just something and I've always been told I should do it by people I trust and know very well. And see if I do this without this whole table falling over. But I just never invested the time. Tumbler, a book you read before it was cool. Well, I've done that a lot of times by accident. I was going to pick The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings because I read them in the early 70s, but they were already out in paperback editions that it was a small group, but it was still popular within that group, so I don't think it qualified. But this, obviously not in this edition, mine's long gone. Wish I had it because it was a hardback first edition. I read both Game of Thrones and The Clash of Kings in 1999. And I think I remember getting them I think I got them on a remainder table or something. I can't remember for sure. And I liked them enough to remember them. And the only reason I picked them up is because I had read other things by George Railroad Martin, and I had lived in the Southwest where he lived and had been to certain book events. remembered really enjoying them. Thought of him more as the guy who did wild cards and all that. But as the series continued, it took, so I sort of lost track of it because of the time involved. And I didn't forget the books, but to be honest with you, I didn't realize more had come out. And then when the HBO thing started, of course, it reminded me. The problem with it is I read them 18 years ago. I don't know. I'd have to start from the very beginning if I was to reread them. My wife watches the show. I every once in a while watch it and enjoy it. But so that would be before it was cool. Tumblr. Myspace. A book you don't remember whether you liked or not. And that would be this one. I read it so long ago. The Magic Mountain. Thomas Mann. Let's see the one I have. Translated from the German by H.T. Lowe Porter, Alfred Knopf, 1961. I just cannot. I remember it vaguely. I have no idea what my reaction to it was. So that was Tumblr, a book MySpace, a book you don't remember whether you liked or not. Instagram, a book that was so beautiful you had to Instagram it. Well, that would be, I don't Instagram, but I understand the sentiment. Terry Jones, Who Murdered Chaucer, a Medieval Mystery. Hopefully you can see this beautiful cover. And really beautiful throughout. Let's see if we can do it. Oh, it was a nice one. A very nice book. The paper feels fantastic. Terry Jones was a member of Monty Python. You may remember him. There he is. So, yeah, I would say that would be it. I mean, I have lots of beautiful books, but that's one that came to mind. YouTube, a book that you wish would be turned into a movie. And now this is a translated work, so it could have been turned into a movie, and I don't know about it. This is the beginning of a series by Arturo Perez Reverte, Captain Alaris. I read Perez Reverte in translations quite a bit, and I've always enjoyed his work. And when we do a shelf tour that involves those books, I'll be showing them. So it's the height of Spain's celebrated golden century, but beyond the walls of the royal palace, there's little on the streets of Madrid that glitters. The invincible Armada has been defeated. The shadow of the Inquisition looms large, and the 30-year war ravages in Flanders. When a courageous soldier of this war, Captain Diego Alaris, is forced to retire after being wounded in battle, he returns home to live in the comparatively tame, though hardly quiet, life of a swords for hire. In this dangerous city where a thrust of steel settles all matters, there is no stronger blade than Alaris. It's a swashbuckling tale that's worthy of Errol Flynn, and there's a whole bunch of them I have, and I don't have all of them, but I actually would recommend any of his books that you find in translation. If you read them in Spanish, of course, that would be wonderful. Let's see if they have a picture of him. Yeah, there he is right there. He's immensely popular writer in his own country for sure. Goodreads, a book you recommend to everyone, and it isn't for everyone. That again, I understand the sentiment of the question. What are you enthusiastic about? What's a book you usually go right to? And so obviously, if somebody's into graphic novels, or if somebody's into history, or they're into this, or they're into that maybe the recommendation wouldn't be appropriate. But for the most part, I think the one that I would choose will be Gunter Grass, The Tin Drum. I remember being absolutely blown away by this book. I have a picture of him. There he is right there. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. That would be my choice for one I would recommend to most folks. Then we have here Skype. I really like this question. A book with characters that you wish you could talk to instead of just reading about. And actually, this book was easy for me to pick. And that's An Improbable Life. Let's see, I got a little glare today here. Memoirs by Robert Kraft. Let me see here. Vanderbilt University Press in Nashville, and this was 2002. This is the first edition. There's Mr. Kraft. And there's a reason I picked this. Robert Kraft's famous as the American musician who was very close friends and co-worker with Stravinsky in his American years. And a pointed cultural critic, not just music critic. And he had his enemies. He's passed away now. But usually the deeper you look into it, the enemies, sometimes if you're known by your enemies, it makes you look better. But some of the folks he knew through the 20th century, I'll just give you a list here. Obviously Stravinsky. But his improbable life became a whirlwind of international activity at the cutting edge of modern music and the revival of early music, and in the company of celebrities, by letter or in persons, figures like Edwin Hubble, Aldous Huxley, Stephen Spender, T.S. Eliot, W.H. Auden, Pierre Boulez, Elliot Carter, and George Balanchine make their appearances. A whole series of letters by someone we've talked about before on this channel. Isaiah Berlin's letters to the author discuss Stravinsky and Berlin, their relationship. So Isaiah Berlin, I always want to hear about. So, and there's more. He's a wonderful musician. He was involved in some of the most famous productions. And let's see if I can let's see if we can get some pictures here to give you an idea. There's some here. Let's see. There's a signed copy of Isaiah Berlin's Karl Marx, His Life and Environment, that he gave to Kraft. So if you can find this book, An Improbable Life, it's a wonderful book. And any of the Kraft books on Stravinsky and any of his other ones. He has one on travel. So I would think that group of folks that he did get to sit around, not all at once. Wouldn't think, or I'd know he didn't all at once over his lifetime. But if I could sit down with them all at once and just listen, maybe fire them up with a question and then get them going, because they were quite a group. So that's who I would pick, Robert Kraft, for the Skype. So that was the social media book tag. Thank you, BookTube.